So happy Thursday, everyone. It's Greg Dixon here with the Note Center with Maurice Thomas Junior, and we have the fifth installment in the Note Summer School, and we're going to talk about valuating mortgage notes. So, how much is a note worth? So, Maurice has got a presentation here, and we'll get on that.
Yes, yes. All right. So, good afternoon. Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks, Greg, for that introduction. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Maurice Thomas Jr. I actually have shared living spaces and group homes that we actually have in our portfolio. But the most important piece here and what we're most passionate about is our mortgage note investing. So, this here is the fifth installment of the Mortgage Note Summer School series. And today we are going to discuss the valuation of mortgage notes. What is that note actually worth? So, what you want to remember is the life of a note, okay? It's going to be two different pathways. You're going to have your performing and your non performing notes, all right? When it's a performing, you would pretty much that individual pay as the regular making the regular payments, paying as agreed upon the note, and then or if that person refinance, you actually get paid off there. But the most important piece here in this diagram, thanks to Larry Hoffman for coming up with this flow chart, is the non-performing pathway in the red there. You're making sure that you are paying attention to the short sale, your foreclosing, and your loan modifications within the process there when it comes to your non and your performing notes, your non-performing notes in general. Some of the key players in the market that we discussed is going to be your banks and financial institutions, your private investors, your mortgage note brokers, your government entities, your hedge funds, your some of your private equity firms as well. Um, some of the key factors in your due diligence process that we covered in this series include like your payment history, making sure that you are paying attention to your payment history with your due diligence process, the lien position, making sure that the property value are there, some of the loan terms, the borrower's credit worthiness, of course, and of course the service and loan records. You want to make sure that you are reviewing the service and records for accuracy as well. And some of these things you will see kind of is moving in the actual process of how to do a thorough evaluation and a due diligence. These two go hand in hand with each other. Some of the tools for effective due diligence include making sure that you look at the borrower's credit worthiness, by leveraging those credit reports themselves. You're looking at the property appraisal services associated with making sure that you have the property appraisal services available to assess the property's value, making sure that you have those kind of individuals on your team for your effective due diligence, making sure that you have some title companies that can go and research um, you know any discrepancies with the title as well. You want to make sure that you are leveraging the loan servicing platforms that is provided with their back office for those loan servicing companies. You want to make sure that you actually have some legal representation on your team as it relates to different attorneys per state, if you have to foreclose or do a short sale or whatever it may be as it relates to your exit strategy for that deal. So today, like I said, we are diving into the evaluation of mortgage notes as it relates to how to evaluate performing notes and non-performing notes. Okay, now a performing note is just pretty much where the borrower is making their regularly timely payments, including to like the loan agreement itself. They are making those payments in not only are they making those payments, they're still abiding by the loan agreement itself. Okay, so that's pretty much what a performing note is. Now, some of the criteria here that you see on the screen related to evaluating notes here. You want to make sure that you're looking at, doing a cash flow analysis. All right. This is pretty much you evaluating the stream of payments received from the borrower. This involves, like you want to project the future cash flow payments and ensure that they are consistent and reliable. All right. When you are evaluating that. So it's pretty much a cash flow analysis. I put discount rate. Anytime you are, evaluating a note or performing note, you want to make sure that you are looking at, um, as it relates to the cash flow, you want to make sure that you are, well, I would say this. This is the concept of, discounting future cash flows, to the present value itself. Um, this discount rate itself is used to make sure that you are, adequate, you know, looking at the risk and the time value of money associated with the note itself to kind of predict its future. All right. And I'll kind of jump into that more. And I don't want to bore you with the math portion of it here, but I just want to give you an idea of what a discount rate is as it relates to a performing note. And then I always put the borrower's credit worthiness. All right. I always want to make sure I highlight, the significance of assessing the borrower's ability to making, on-time payments. Looking at their credit score, their income stability, and, looking at their employment history as well. The long terms, um, always want to review the long terms, the terms of the loan, the interest rate, the payment schedule, the maturity dates, because this affects the overall value and the risk of the note. So when it comes to evaluating a note, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to these key factors. Is it a performing note? And pretty much a performing note is just a person making regular timely payments according to their loan agreement. And speaking of their loan agreement, you want to make sure that you are assessing the borrower's ability to continue making those timely payments. You want to look at their credit score, their income stability, their employment history. Again, you're pretty much doing a cash flow analysis on the long terms itself. Paying attention to those interest rate, those payment schedules, maturity dates, because all of this or all of these factors, you know um, is key in assessing the risk of the actual note. Now, your non-performing notes your non-performing notes is, and you can actually see that illustration there, as it relates to your non-performing notes. Now, your non-performing notes themselves, okay, let's start off with a definition, just so we can make sure everyone is on the same page. A non-performing note is where the borrower have, they have missed payments, or they're actually in default. um, this type of note is more riskier. All right, it is a riskier investment. However, we all know that notes are backed by a collateral, okay, which is the home. So when I have property value there, I want to make sure that you understand that when you are evaluating a non-performing note, you want to make sure that you understand the property's value, because it is the primary source of recovery in the case of the borrower defaults. Um, the we kind of touched on the due diligence process of making sure that you actually have a detailed property appraisal, which is going to be mission critical in your decision, for your risk tolerance or your risk appetite when it comes to assessing the underlying property value. Now, some of the potential recoveries, when it comes to a non-performing note, in the illustration that I actually showed you before, you actually have, your loan modifications. A loan modification is pretty much where you will work with the borrower and renegotiate the loan terms. You actually have your foreclosure process, or your deed in lieu. That is where you actually take ownership of the property. All right. And in the case that you do a short sale, as an exit strategy, you are selling the property, less than the actual loan amount. Now, it is a premium associated with non-performing notes, and the premium requires a higher discount when you actually looking to purchase a non-performing note, because you want to account for the increased risk. The higher the risk, the higher the expected return to compensate for the potential loss. You want to remember that as it relates to evaluating your non-performing notes. Now, again, a non-performing note is pretty much where the borrower has missed payments, or they actually are in default, making making this more of a riskier investment. You always want to make sure that you are looking at the underlying, property value, or assessing that, thoroughly. You want to make sure that you understand the recovery strategies as it relates to loan modifications, short sales, and, foreclosures. And you want to remember, non-performing notes require a higher discount, to account for their, increased risk here. Now, which takes me to our next slide there, which I kind of covered it at a high level. Some of the factors that affect the note value itself is course is going to be the borrower's credit worthiness, the loan terms, the property value, um, you know, looking at the market itself, the market conditions, and looking at the servicing records. I have that as well, because I think that is mission critical when it comes to it goes back to your due diligence and making sure that you are not cutting corners. Now, the borrower's credit worthiness, the reason why I actually have that as something that affects the note value is because you are looking at the borrower's financial stability. You're looking at their credit score. You're looking at their repayment history, because you are looking at the borrower's credit worthiness. Because what it means is, the higher the credit worthiness, it just means that it's a lower risk and it's a higher value for that note. You're looking at the loan terms itself. You're looking at that interest rate, the payment schedule. You're looking at the maturity date and any prepayment penalties. That actually affects it affects the overall attractiveness and the value of the note itself. Again, these are just a few factors that affect the note value itself. I touched on the property value on the last slide there. Um, Here I just want to put a significant emphasis on understanding the current market value of the property, because that collateral secures that note. And you want to remember, a higher property value provides better collateral. It reduces your risk, and it actually increases the note value as itself. The market conditions, um, you want to make sure that's stable and growing market, because if you're buying notes in New York, that's a long foreclosure process. If you're buying, um, notes in the South, or where we primarily, pay attention to Georgia, Alabama, Texas, different things of that nature. Um, those are attractive. Um, those are attractive states because of the short foreclosure time frame, anywhere from 30 days. It's going to be 30 days max, to actually foreclose on a property and actually get ownership. But again, the emphasis on the property value itself. Okay, a higher property value, just provides better collateral. It reduces the risk, and it actually increases the note value itself. The servicing records, that's important because you know you want to make sure that you are paying attention to those detailed servicing records, because it provides insights into the borrower's payment history. Um, the servicing records, you can always have access to this information back, with the back office of your servicing team. I'm pretty sure they have those back offices where you can actually look. Speaking of back office, these are it kind of goes into the tools for evaluating notes itself. Okay, some of the tools, and I stated this before, which is a cash flow, a DCF. I couldn't speak there. My coffee's wearing off. So some of the tools and methods for evaluation is going to be your DCF, which is your discounted cash flow analysis. This pretty much just this method is just pretty much projecting the future cash flows from the note, and you're discounting them to understand their present value, using the actual discount rate that you actually use. This is particularly useful for evaluating performing notes. Okay, one of my mentors, or not one of my mentor, my mentor himself, him and his partner, we very rarely buy notes at par. All right, so we're always, not saying that we're nitpicking or anything of that nature, but he taught us very due diligence process. Okay, so I'm always leveraging, appropriate discount rate for the note. I'm always looking at the payment history. Okay, I'm looking and leveraging. Um, the market analysis, which is a CMA, is pretty much just you're looking at comparable sales data to estimate the property's market value. You're looking at the exit strategy when you're going into the deal, just in case that you have to foreclose on that property. All right, so remember that it's essential to assess the house. because it is the collateral back in the note. Now I have AVMs on here for the automated valuation models itself. The reason why I have this is because these technology, driven tools, these tools use algorithms and data analytics to provide, a quick property evaluation. And it's something that we use in our group homes and our shared living spaces, um, especially when we foreclose on a property. We're using Air DNA, Air DNA to look at short-term, long-term rentals. We're looking at the market itself. Those types of platforms give you the quick data analytics. That way you can actually do a property evaluation yourself. Um, Speaking of property evaluation, you actually have your professional appraisers, which is going to be you hiring certified appraisers for accurate and detailed property assessments as well. You want to make sure that you are leveraging them, especially around high value or complex type properties as well. And then I touched on it before, your loan servicing, software. You always want to make sure that you're leveraging the back office, um, because they have that specialized software to analyze and give you that comprehensive loan data, track payments, and identify, potential issues associated with those deals that you are looking at as it relates to reviewing the collateral files. Um, some of the best practices in note evaluation and is, you're always doing thorough research. Not only are you doing your thorough research, you're making sure that you have professional assistants. Touched on it before, making sure that you hire, appraisers, making sure that you are, basically seeking professional help, such as appraisers, attorneys, financial advisors when needed. You want to make sure that you are continually learning as it relates to some of the best practices um, and pretty much staying up to date on market trends, regulations, and just best practices, because you will start having those conversations with mortgage note brokers, other private investors. It could be some books that you picked up. That way, you understand the jargon associated, you know, with the actual space itself. I have documentation here that's always going to be mission critical, because you want to make sure that you maintain accurate and detailed records, for your records, because you want to make sure you are staying compliant. And it's just for future references as well, just in case you pass your estate over to someone can pick the ball up and get the running right with it here. Um, you know, when it comes to best practices, everyone has a certain appetite when it comes to their investing. But what you want to remember is, again, you always want to make sure that you are documenting your process, you are continually learning, you are looking for professional assistance, and you are doing your thorough research. So, in closing, some of the key points today, um, you want to remember that your you want to remember how to evaluate performing and non-performing notes. Some of the factors that actually affect the value itself, and you want to make sure that you are using tools and different methods to evaluate the actual note. And the reason why I'm encouraging these is because it becomes like best practice when you actually start, or not becomes best practice. You start to create your own best practice um, when it comes to your investing appetite. You want to make sure that you are continuing learning and developing the skills here in the mortgage note space. Again, I want to emphasize the importance of adequately evaluating the note so you can actually make the informed decisions and managing your risk appetite as well. So again, this is my name is Maurice Junior. I am always looking for partners. I'm always looking to support individuals who are, looking to get and dive into this space here. So if you visit tiglegacy.com, you actually can have access to my calendar there, or you can always, reach out to me and leverage my social media handles. It's going to be Maurice Thomas Jr. on Facebook, where you actually see this stream. If you're watching on LinkedIn, you can always reach out to me there. Instagram, YouTube, all that information you will see in the description here. So I'm gonna go ahead and punt it back over to you, Greg.
No, that's fabulous. Yeah, so it's really good advice. Do your due diligence, track it, and as last week we talked about maybe we need a little spreadsheet, and this is the kind of thing too. Is your different ways of valuing the note, and maybe you need to take an average of those. Yeah. So and
Absolutely. That's a great call out.
yeah. So yeah. So that's fabulous. And what are we talking to about on Tuesday?
Uh, Great point. Great question. I mean, let me see. Valuation of mortgage notes. We're gonna dive into understanding the mortgage note contract. We're look at
Okay.
the key components. We're looking at some of the common terms and conditions, and just red flags to watch for. That was a great question. That caught me off guard.
Okay, there we go. All right, so see you all see you all on Tuesday, and there's reach out and have a discussion with Maurice.
Absolutely. See you all back Tuesday for lesson 6 of the Mortgage Note Summer School
Yes.
series. Thanks.
Awesome. Happy Thursday.